Abdul Kalam, he failed the Indian Air Force entrance exam. Amitabh Bachchan failed the Akashvani exam to get a job at All India Radio. Rahul Dravid failed the SSB exams to get into the armed forces multiple times, just like all these people. Failing an exam or getting less marks in an exam is not the end. And there's 3 big scientific reasons that back my statement. Reason number 1, it's your grandparents' fault. Yes, you heard me right, it's your grandparents' fault. So let me explain. Basically, depending on the year that you were born in, you're categorized as one of many generations. So people born from 1965 to 1979 are Generation X, from 1980 to 1995 are Generation Y, and from 96 to 2010 is Generation Z. But before these 3 generations is India's independence generation. All over the world, this is called the baby boomers generation. In India, it's called the Indian independence generation. That was born between 1945 and 1965. The generation before this, before 1945, is today called the silent generation. Now, these 2 generations, the silent generation and the baby boomers, were the first people to see India becoming a free country. But you've also got to remember that the country they got in their hands was unfortunately a very poor country that time. Why? Because of the British. The British absolutely ruined this country. In the year 1700, India's contribution to the total world's income was about 23%, the exact same as all of Europe put together. We were as rich as the whole continent of Europe. Cut to about 250 years later, in the year 1950, we dropped down to about 4% of the world's total income. That's how much the British ruined this country. That's how much money they stole from it. That's how poor they made India's people. So the silent generation and the baby boomers had to build India up from scratch. That's why a lot of people couldn't take risks in life. A lot of people couldn't start businesses of their own or take up alternative careers. Your main goal was to make your family stable, was to become a middle-class Indian family. How do you become a middle-class, stable family? By taking up stable jobs. Medicine, engineering, law, accounts, government studies. Those were the professions you chose if you wanted to make your family's life stable. Now, you also got to remember that from 1947 to about 1990, India saw a very small economic growth rate. While Korea and China were growing a lot, almost by about 10% every year, India was growing at around 3 to 4%. But in 1990, under the leadership of Manmohan Singh, our economy opened up. We had the liberalization of the Indian economy. So basically, India's ecosystem for business became a lot better. Foreign businesses, Indian businesses started coming up. So after the year 1990, India started becoming rich. And today we're the world's 6th largest economy. As most of you know, Reliance Jio has actually taken the internet out into the interiors of India, and the whole of India is going to start using the internet. Now, what that means for you and me is that there's going to be a lot of new job opportunities. But you've also got to remember that we may not be able to take all of those job opportunities because our parents are part of Gen X, the baby boomers, and the silent generations. The 3 conservative generations, the generations that saw poor India, that chased stability. We're talking about a generation like ours, Gen Y and Gen Z. We've seen a richer India, we've seen India grow, and we have big dreams. So a lot of times, your parents may not understand these dreams of yours, and that's why if you don't do well in this Indian education system, they may think that you won't be able to become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, etc. And that's why they might shout at you. But scientifically speaking, those aren't the only job options that you should be going for. There's a lot more money, there's easier money, and there's more fun ways to make money in today's day and age that you and me might understand, your parents may not understand. And that's why getting low marks in your exams early on in a poorer India meant much more than it means today. If you get low marks today, it's not the end of your career. In fact, it's almost helping you choose the best career for yourself. You're understanding what's wrong for you. But very crucially, let's also talk about the Indian education system. Why is it so spoilt? Why is ratta marrowing such a huge thing? Again, blame the British, because they really f***ed us up. They shut down our industries, they stole our raw materials, and then they stole our money by selling us the things that were created using those raw materials. Now, back in Britain, the European economy was booming thanks to colonization. They were taking over countries and stealing all their money, and that's why their own countries were becoming richer. Now, back in those countries, factories were set up, industries were set up. Now, the government there decided, you know what, we need to control all these factory workers, all these industry workers. So let's create an education system that's based on rote learning, ratta marna. Okay, so all those white people were also taught rote learning, and they applied those same rote learning concepts to all their colonies. So they came to India and they taught us English, which was actually beneficial for us going forward, but the rest of it was pretty messed up, because even in this country they brought their rote learning system with them in order to create factory workers, industry workers out of us. They wanted to create a population that's able to follow orders. You're given something, you learn it, you spit it out in your exam paper. That trains you for life, that trains you for taking orders for life. They never wanted Indians at the highest positions, the scientists, the doctors, the top lawyers. No. Indians were supposed to be the assistants, the lab assistants, the nurses, all that. Slightly lower than the top. That's what the British wanted. That's the education system they designed for us. And unfortunately, because the education boards in this country aren't proactive, that system hasn't been revamped. So cut to today, where Western countries have actually revamped their education systems. They've gotten rid of their rote learning, where there they actually tested on application-based learning. India's still stuck in this old style education system, and that's why all of us are suffering. For example, in an Indian engineering college, we are taught circuits and we're taught diagrams. We're supposed to mug up those circuits and diagrams, and in the exam paper, you're asked one of those 10 circuits that you learned. But in Britain, in Western countries, you're shown 10 circuits and you're told to draw an 11th circuit. You're supposed to understand how things work from the 10, and the 11th one you design yourself. That's the difference between India right now, India's education system, and the rest of the world's education system. And if you don't do well in an education system like this, do you really think it's a good reflection of your real smarts in life? Maybe not. And that also brings me to the third scientific reason why doing badly in exams really doesn't matter. Reason number 3, the real world action you can take after you watch this video. So I believe that there's no point just complaining about how bad the Indian education system is. What's the solution to all this? The solution is learning about the theory of different intelligences by Howard Gardner. He's a very experienced psychologist who came up with this theory. He said that you can't just classify human beings based on one kind of intelligence. How often do you hear parents say things like, "Abhi duffer, arey idiot, itne low marks kaise aaye?" Parents need to remember that getting low marks is not a sign of intelligence, or it's not a sign of being dumb in life. What is a sign of intelligence is knowing the theory of different intelligences. So depending on your strength, you're classified in one of 8 types of intelligences. The first is logical mathematical intelligence. Basically the ability to solve problems, especially mathematical ones, and the ability to organize things well. So if you have a high level of logical mathematical intelligence, that probably means that you should chase a coding career, an engineering based career, a corporate career. That's where you'll flourish. The second kind of intelligence is interpersonal intelligence. Being good socially, understanding people well, being able to motivate people well. If you feel like you're good at these things, business is the place you should be at. Those skills apply especially in a country like India, where business is based on how good your relationships are with people, how emotionally connected you are to people. The next kind of intelligence is visual-spatial intelligence. How well you can picture things in 3D, how well you can visualize objects. The jobs related to this kind of skill are architecture and product design, both extremely high-paying professions if you play the game right. Next kind of intelligence is musical intelligence. Being able to pick up the ability to play an instrument well, being able to understand music more deeply. Obviously, music composer, singer, those are your job options. The next is body kinesthetic intelligence. Being able to have amazing coordination in your body. Jobs related to this, the army and sports. The next is verbal linguistic intelligence, being amazing with words, being amazing with storytelling. Jobs related, social media manager, writer, content writer, copywriter. These kind of jobs weren't really available and widespread, say about even 10 years back. But in today's day and age, they'll pay you good money. The next kind of intelligence, intrapersonal, being extremely aware about yourself, being able to understand human emotions extremely well. The jobs related to this skill are personal coach, health coach, psychologist. But more than that, this kind of intelligence just gives you a lot of internal peace. You understand your own strengths, weaknesses, things that irritate you, things that give you happiness. And this kind of intelligence is something you can work on over time. And the final kind of intelligence is something called naturalistic intelligence, something that biologists and conservationists require. The ability to understand nature well. You know those people who are able to spot little animals or little birds on trees when you never even saw that bird on that tree? Those people have better naturalistic intelligence than you. They have a gift from the universe. And these kind of people can do some crazy work for the environment, for conservation. Every single human being is blessed with his or her own strengths. It's your job to actually list all those strengths down on paper and then figure out, okay, what job can I create out of these strengths? What will I really be good at? Where do I belong in life? Remember, if you've got low marks in life, it's not the end, it's just the beginning. You're just beginning to understand what you're not good at. You're beginning to cross out your options. And above all, you're beginning to appreciate the good times in life when you've seen dark times like this. Low marks don't equal bad marks. Low marks equal look somewhere else, bro. If you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, share it with someone who really needs to watch a video like this. And until next time, guys, from Ranveer and the team, we'll see you later.